No 2 days are the same. Always something different. And and I think that's why most of us that are on our side, that's what we enjoy about it. Always something different.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Turf Today on the Superintendent Network, brought to you by Toro. My name is Adam Kershane, and I am joined by my co-host, as always, Brian Laurent. Today we got an awesome episode for you guys. We are bringing in a certified turf equipment manager. Mr. Trent Manning joins us from Ainsley Golf Club, which is in Roswell, Georgia. He comes to us with a ton of experience, including tournament experience, a little bit of education, and some excellent stories. Trent has seen a lot of different things, and he's heard a lot of different things. Listen in to hear about Trent's podcast, The Real Turf Techs. A lot to be learned here, some great advice about the shop, how to operate your machines, and things to do being part of a team. Turf Today is brought to you by Toro. When it comes to spraying, precision makes all the difference. That's why Toro developed their GPS-guided GeoLink system for their MultiPro 5800 sprayers. The system knows exactly where you've sprayed and where you haven't, automatically turning nozzles on and off as you go. That means no more wasted chemicals or missed spots. Let that sink in, and imagine what you could save with that kind of precision. Visit Toro.com to learn more and see how Toro is always solving and always evolving. All we needed was a little reset.
That's all it takes. Just
Man, a lot going on.
I was just trying to looking at a couple things on the calendar, and it's like, holy crap. Yeah. Just talking to my wife and all that. And it's like, I'm not gonna be home till like July.
I'm not gonna be around for a little while. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, we're five episodes away from 100. We got to start talking about
Really?
that because I know, like, this is number 95. Like, it's crazy to think.
No,
He just texted me. Just text me. I don't see the link. Oh, there he is.
Marcus.
Oh,
He's using someone else's computer.
yeah, playing tricks on us.
You got me now?
We got you.
Yes, sir.
Who's Marcus though?
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody calls me Marcus except my mom, and she passed away several years ago. So she was the only one.
Gotcha.
It's on the driver's license though, I bet.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's on the driver's license. Yes.
Nice.
Hands down. I apologize. So I've been sitting here for over 10 minutes and I couldn't find the link. And for some reason it went to spam, even though you emailed me yesterday and it didn't. I don't, what's the chances?
We're really just a bunch of scammers here, Trent. We're just
Well, I know. I mean, I get the same thing all the time.
Sorry about that. We were having some connection issues too. So me and Brian were also fighting technology on this.
Oh, nice. No worries. No worries at all. That's what I tell myself anyway. When somebody doesn't respond to wanting to be on my podcast, I say, well, it just went to spam. That's why.
100%.
And then, I've talked to some guys and they're like, no, I'm getting them.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Just ignoring them. Huh?
Yep.
Oh man, I was gonna say we got another guy with a big podcast set up there too. You got to have all the gear and everything. You're no stranger to podcasts.
No, not at all. But I don't have these fancy studio either. I'm in the corner of my bedroom. But
well, I'll bet Sean Ryan started in his bedroom, right? I mean,
one day
they all started somewhere.
That's right. We all have to start somewhere.
For those that aren't aware of who you are, go ahead and give us your little intro here.
Is you just want a little one?
No,
Well,
or
how
yeah,
you can go
yeah,
as deep as you want,
this is
man. You
your
no,
can
no,
go
episode, brother.
if you want to
yeah,
start to your earliest memories. You're welcome to do that. This is your episode, buddy.
no, I'm joking. Yeah, so I'm an equipment manager on a golf course, and I've done that for quite some time. I hadn't always done that though. So I have worked at the same golf course my whole time in golf, but I did take about an 8 year break. And during that break, I built sports fields for about 4 years. I worked on equipment building golf courses for a couple of years. And then I worked for a Toro distributor as a mobile service tech. So I've been turning wrenches, for my whole life. And I really, really enjoy it. And the thing I like the most about the golf course is no 2 days are the same, always something different. And and I think that's why most of us that are on our side, that's what we enjoy about it. Always something different.
So growing up, were you more mechanically inclined, or were you kind of a golfer and found that side of things?
No, I've always been very mechanically inclined, but the mechanics of swinging a golf club, not my cup of tea. Um, That I never did figure that one out. I tried, when I first started at the course, and I'm a redneck kid growing up in North Georgia, so I'm out there with my shirt off, and the superintendent has to ride up, and he's like, "No, no, no, you put your shirt back on." But I didn't know any better. We took our shirt off when we were hauling hay, so why not take it off while you're playing golf, right? Um, so yeah, but I was at a young age, yeah, tearing stuff apart, go karts, lawnmowers, whatever it was around the house. And a lot of times I was not successful getting them back together, but I seen what they look like on the inside. And that was always intrigued me, I guess. Curious mind.
So, what took that curious mind and took it to a golf course?
Really just opportunity, I guess. So my best friend in high school got a job at the golf course. And the reason he got the job at the golf course is he was actually neighbors with the mechanic at the golf course. Just so happened it was the mechanic. And let's see, they were paying, I think, $2 more an hour than minimum wage at the time. And I'm like, heck yeah. So I'm making more money than all my friends. I'm working outside, um, and I'm having a lot of fun. So there's actually three of us, we're the three stooges, but we were all friends, in high school, and we all got a summer job there. And I was the only one that stuck around. The other guys stuck around a couple years. But we had so much fun, no matter what it was. And yeah, there was a lot of goofing off going on too. But we worked hard and we played hard.
When you went to that golf course and started there, were you working outside or were you working with your friend's neighbor in the shop?
So I started working outside on the course just like anybody else. I mowed greens, I raked bunkers, whatever. Stood in a ditch and, whatever it was that needed to be done. And I done that for the first 2 summers there. And then when I graduated high school, so I started when I was 16. When I graduated high school that summer, we were looking for an irrigation tech. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Sure. And it didn't take too long to figure out I didn't really enjoy that much. I mean, I enjoyed, learning about irrigation, but it kind of sucks when you have to dig a hole before you can start working. I'm like, okay, it's not a whole lot of fun. But anyway, our assistant mechanic left like that fall, October, November or something. And I'd stuck my head in the shop enough, I guess. And the mechanic's like, you'd be interested in working in here under me? And I said, yeah, it'd be awesome. And this gentleman, he was retired from General Motors and he grew up, I guess, similar to me in a rural area. And, if you wanted something, you kind of had to work on it. We didn't take our cars to the mechanic very often. I mean, it was out of necessity, right? And that's the way he grew up for sure. And, my dad grew up that way too. But he was, I don't know, jack of all trades, master of none. So I'm kind of followed in his footsteps too. I know how to do a little bit of a lot of stuff, and I don't know if I know how to do any of it very well.
So it sounds like a lot of it was self-taught or learning from mentors. Did you do any schooling or any education, or has it all just been kind of hands-on?
Mostly just, yeah, hands-on, school of hard knocks, and I mean, I like learning that way. I did go to technical school right after. It was kind of weird. So it was Gwinnett Technical College, and they started an equipment manager. Back then, it wasn't even called equipment managers. It was golf course mechanic or whatever program, golf course technician program. And they modeled it after Lake City. Lake City was really popular, and Lake City put out some really good equipment managers or golf course technicians back in the day. So they modeled it after that, and trying to remember. I took 5 or 6 classes, just continuing education stuff. Pretty basic, but I learned some things. But that was the only year, and then they done away with the program because there wasn't enough interest. And the class that I was in, there was, I don't know, 15 of us in there, and I was the only person that worked at a golf course. There was 2 guys that worked for the John Deere distributor, and then everybody else was old retired guys that were bored and wanted to work on small engines.
How much did that experience of you starting out on the golf course and operating the machinery, how much did that help you then in that transition when you went into the shop, understanding how those pieces of equipment worked and what their intent was?
I think it was tremendous. Not that you can't repair a piece of equipment, but the more you know about the equipment and how it's supposed to be operated, and what it should sound like. So if you've been on a zero turn, you know what the zero turn sounds like. And then you get on the zero turn one time and it doesn't sound like it did the last time. That should be a light bulb going off. Ding, ding, ding. Something right here. And check it out. And I wish more operators were in tune with that, and they're just whatever. They got something hanging off and they're dragging it around and around. And yeah.
And now it's time for another installment of Ask the Agronomist, presented by the Andersons. From tee to green, goal to goal, and shoots to roots, nothing is off limits.
Welcome back to Ask the Agronomist, featuring PhD agronomist Ben Pease from the Andersons. Our question today comes in from El Uaham Abdesamad. What is the best way to control moss on greens?
This is a kind of a more common problem than I bet superintendents want to admit. We've all been at a course where we know there's a couple problem greens. There are indicator greens as far as where moss is going to show up and where we need to start treatments or preventative treatments. If there's visible moss, we know there's a lot more that's not visible. So indicator greens are very, very important when we're dealing with moss. Controlling it, we've got one herbicide, Quicksilver, that does a good job. It does need repeated applications and does sometimes have phytotoxicity potential in warmer months. So it's probably best used in the fall and spring seasons, but it does do its job, and there are limitations on how much you can put out. So, but it is a start, and it does work for a time period at least. We can also look at irrigation management, shade management. So moss loves areas where there's not much air movement or sun. If we're overwatering and the surface is staying too wet, that encourages moss growth. So we got to look at some of our scheduled maintenance practices, whether it's irrigation or tree management. Fertility, if we're not feeding the turf enough, then we know the moss will more likely take over. Because if the turf isn't strong enough to fight off any weed or stress, I mean, like similarly like how a well-fed green can better fight off poa annua invasion. Well, same thing with moss. But if the green's shaded, we got to be careful with overfeeding in the shades. So maybe we got to look at growth regulators too. So there's not a silver bullet for moss quite yet. I know we're doing quite a bit of work on the backside, trying to find some sort of product that does control moss. So more to come potentially on that later. But for now, we're really looking at a lot of our cultural practices as far as fertility, irrigation, maybe a herbicide application or two. But we put all that together and hopefully get some moss control.
What about cultural practices, Ben? Any recommendations for that?
Yeah, anything we can do to disturb that moss layer. So verticutting seems to work pretty well because if you can scarify the top of the moss and then you're able to get some more sand in there to really irritate it, or the herbicide can get in there better for scarifying, breaking into that moss layer. Verticutting does a good job of that, aerifying. People have seen good results with just even very, very light sand top dressing, and you're dragging it in, roughing up that surface with just trying to help with thatch management too. That plays into maybe some humics if you got too much thatch. But yeah, the cultural practices are big with moss because while we do have a herbicide or two, there are some limitations there, and we really need to kind of come at it from a lot of different angles to unfortunately control moss in today's low cut bent grass green arena.
Perfect. That's great advice. I know we've dealt with it in the past, and it's something you definitely have to stay on top of because if you let it go or you forget about it, it creeps up on you. So, sound
Oh
advice,
yeah.
Ben. This has been another installment of Ask the Agronomist featuring Dr. Ben Pease from the Andersons.
Is that your next venture in the media space? You're going to create like a library of machine sounds that you can give to all operators and just say it's kind of a joke, but
Well, no, I don't. I mean, you might be joking, but I'm really, my wheels are turning here. I'm like, man, that might be
yeah.
a good
I want in
idea.
on this, Trent. I want in on this.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, for sure.
Sticking with that, do you have any advice for people? We have a lot of, not only superintendents, but greenkeepers and different people that work in the industry. And there are a lot of operators definitely listening to this. Do you have any advice for people that are operating equipment? Maybe they're new on it or new pieces of equipment, that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's really simple. If you don't know, just ask. Just ask somebody. If you don't know. I wish more people would do that. And I do. So from the mechanic side and maybe even from the superintendent side, operators tend to get, a bad rap a lot of times. But honestly, I think it's because they were never trained in the first place. And we get all these people in at the golf course and we just expect they have all the knowledge that we do, and there's nowhere close to that. So we have this one operator and college kid. I don't know what year in college or what college he was attending. It was, yeah. Anyway, I roll up on him out on the course, and he's in a golf cart, knees in the seat, and he's like leaning in the back. So I pull up. I'm like, what's going on? Nothing. Like, everything okay? And he has a backpack blower and two gas cans. And I was like, is there something wrong with the blower? Because he's got his hands on it. No, no, it's fine. I'm like, well, what are you doing? Like, why are you avoiding me here? Just answer my question and be straight with me. I said, will the blower start? No, it won't start. I'm like, okay, you just said there was nothing wrong with it, but it won't start. I'm like, so why will it not start? I don't know. So I look, it's empty, no gas, no gasoline.
Step
There's two
one.
cans. Yeah. So yeah, I know. I mean, I've been a mechanic a long time, and that took me a minute to figure that one out. Make sure it's got gas in it, right? I mean, honestly, yeah, like back in the day, that was very common. That's the first thing you do: make sure it's got gas in it. So anyway, no gas. One gas can's empty. The other one's got just a splash of fuel in it. So I turn it up, and he's like, "What? I couldn't get any gas to come out of that." I'm like, well, you got to turn it up. I mean, this kid is 21 or 22 and he doesn't understand gravity. It's like how do you teach people like that? So the challenge for us at the golf course is real, of teaching other humans how gravity works. You got to turn the can all the way up so the gasoline will run out. I mean, he turns it up like halfway. I'm like, come on, man. Yeah, and it reminds me, we have this other kid. He pulls in the shop with a John Deere Pro Gator and turns it off, and then he gets on another gator right next to it. So I'm like flagging him down. So is there something wrong with that other gator? What's going on here? He said, it's out of gas. Okay. So, I mean, I guess nobody had showed him that we got a whole fuel station and we fill it up when it runs out. So, I mean, that's just, some of the things that we run into at the golf course.
What's the worst thing you've seen?
I mean, the one that comes to mind is we had a trailered buffalo blower, and number 18 is a downhill dogleg left par 4, and the trailer come disconnected from the cart, and this is a Friday morning too, and the buffalo blower continues down the fairway and ends up in 18 Lake, and the chute is sticking up in the air, so it looks like a water feature.
No
And
way.
this is, yeah, it's like 9 o'clock on Friday morning in the summertime, and all the members in the clubhouse looking at it. I'm like, this is great. But I mean, it happens.
Got it out, cleaned
Yeah.
it up, and was working again in the afternoon.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean that's one thing, if an engine is not running when it goes in the water, if it's a gasoline engine, it's normally okay. A diesel engine, if it goes in and it's running, I'm like 5 for 5 on bending a connecting rod. The engine's coming apart.
Yeah.
That's this.
Not much you can do about that.
No, and it's like a good a friend of mine, John Borsos. Um, he's in our group. He golf course mechanic in Pennsylvania. I think at South Park Golf Course. Can't make this up, right?
Fun.
Yeah,
Nice.
South Park. Yeah. So anyway, his saying is, it's amazing what an operator will do for one blade of grass. That person is mowing next to a lake and they're like, ooh, I need to get that one blade of grass. And then they're in the lake. Like, that's why they make Flymos. But
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
point.
And I would say my number one pet peeve is when people say that's job security for you. And
Oh, yeah.
no, I mean, I got plenty of work. If you never broke a single piece of equipment, I'm not going to run out of things to do. And my life's going to be a lot easier too.
Yeah, that's true.
So
You're perfectly fine with the routine maintenance, huh? You don't need
Yes.
the emergency
Yes.
repairs.
Yep. Well, yeah, and I mean, I don't care, who it is, what piece of equipment. I mean, it's all going to break at some point or another. I mean, most of these manufacturers design in, they don't want it to last forever, right? They want to sell another piece in 5 years or 10 years. Obviously, some last better than others.
So talk about the relationship between the superintendent and the equipment manager. How vital is it to have a strong relationship amongst those two leaders?
I think it's everything. If you don't have that, it's really, really tough. And I'll be honest, and I mean, I've told everybody this. I mean, the main reason I'm at the club I'm at now is because my relationship with that superintendent and director of agronomy. But I still call him superintendent because he was superintendent when I started. That director of agronomy was not a thing in the 90s that I know of anyway. That come along later. But it's our relationship, and it's not that we agree on everything. Do we get frustrated at each other at times? Sure. I mean, it's just like you've been married for however many years, and I'm sure you have times that you and your wife don't see eye to eye on things. So it's very similar at the golf course. We don't see eye and eye on everything, but I know at the end of the day, he has my back. And that's the most important thing to me. I mean, that's what I want in somebody I'm going to work with. The other thing that we have is he's really good at explaining it. Whatever we're doing, whatever cultural practice, and why are we doing this? And he'll tell me why we're doing this. So I think that's important too, because if your superintendent's throwing a bunch of sand out there and then you're picking all your sand up with the mowers and you're beating your head against the wall because you don't like grinding that much, it's like, well, maybe let's find out what's going on here, and so the director of agronomy, I get along great with him. Superintendents have changed over the years. And a few years ago, I was telling the superintendent, because I mean, they top dress heavy and we pick it up with a mower the next day. Like it's all sand. There's no grass in the bucket. So and I was not the happiest person at the time. So I asked him, I said, if the goal is to get this sand over there in the woods on Tuesday, I'll take the skid steer on Monday and get a couple scoops and just throw it over there in the woods. Because, like that'll
Be a
save
lot more
everybody.
efficient.
Yeah, that'll save everybody a whole lot of time. We won't have to put it in a top dresser. We won't have to put it out on the green. We won't have to pick it up with a mower. We won't have to grind the mower, you know. So I understand that we need to top dress and support top dressing. I recommend top dressing from time to time. Like I think these things need a little sand on them. But I don't recommend top dressing heavy and picking it up with a mower because you didn't get your rate correct. But that's coming from the mechanic side.
The age old argument between the mechanic and the super. I love it.
I guess. But I mean, honestly, I think a lot of that comes down to educating the technician,
Mhm.
and if he understands why you're doing what you're doing, it's a lot more palatable, if you will.
Absolutely. So talk about the rest of the crew and the kind of the vibe at the shop. Sometimes things can be a little bit crazy, especially in the heat of the summer. How do you kind of keep things organized and kind of keep people in line? Because I've always believed that the superintendent sort of runs the crew in the golf course, but the mechanic runs the shop.
I mean, it's definitely challenging at times, keeping all that stuff going. If everything has a place and everything has a home, it makes life so much easier for everybody. I definitely get really frustrated if we keep the shovels here and I see a shovel over there. Like, come on, guys, we got to get this back in its place. And I think it takes a lot of coaching with the operators and the crew, when they're coming in, when you see them doing something that they shouldn't be doing or doing something the wrong way, is just, talking to them. And one thing that some mechanics have to do is step back for a minute and remember that person is a human being. And we should talk to them like a human being and not talk to them like we talk to equipment sometimes, because equipment does not have feelings. So you can pretty much say anything you want to that piece of equipment and it's not going to backtalk you. But when you're talking about operators, that you got to remember that. And I mean, I've struggled with it over the years. It's the heat of the moment, and you see somebody doing something that they shouldn't be doing. It's hard to bite your tongue and approach them politely in the heat of the moment.
Talk about the evolution of your role. Obviously with the advancements in technology, you're starting to probably deal with more computers and stuff like that. How has what you do changed over your career?
I don't know. That's a good question. Because I mean, a lot of it has, changed some, but, the real is still the real. A bed knife's still a bed knife. That technology that Edwin Budding invented in the 1800s, it's still the same thing. We hadn't changed that much. Uh, I definitely think we're more efficient now with some of the electronic stuff, and it'll be interesting to see where all the robotic stuff goes. I personally, I'm not there yet. to fully jump on the bandwagon. Not at my club. We don't really have the application for it. Uh, and that's, yeah, kind of a tangent, but the whole robotic thing, I think we're missing the boat. I don't want a fairway mower, a robotic fairway mower. Like, that's the best job on the golf course. That's, it's the gravy job. That's what everybody says they want to do when they retire, is they want to get a part-time job and mow fairways in the morning at a golf course. And I think there's enough people out there, we can find those people to mow fairways. So why would you take the easiest job on the golf course and make it autonomous? Raking bunkers, fly mowing, uh, weed eating, weed whip, whatever you call it. Yeah, what do you call it, Adam?
Whipping, whippersnipping.
Whipping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whippersnipping. See, I knew. Down here in the South, we call it a weed eater because, and I know that's a name brand, but yeah, we call it weed eating. But yeah, like, that's where I want to see some autonomy and stuff like that, not necessarily fairway mowing. But I understand it's easier to equip a fairway mower to mow autonomously. The sprayers, I think that's been a huge game changer. Individual nozzle control, being able to save the chemicals that we put out on the golf course, that's been really big. Yeah, struggling. I can't think anything else right off top of the head.
So what about in the shop? What's your favorite piece of equipment to work on?
So we have Toro greens mowers, triplexes, and John Deere fairway mowers, and John Deere heavy utility vehicles, Cushman light duty utility vehicles. But no, I mean, I don't care that you're sponsored by Toro. Toro is really great stuff. It is. And if it was up to me, I would only have Toro cutting units. I love a Toro cutting unit better than a Deere any day of the week, and twice on Sunday. But and John Deere, or I don't know what their deal is. I think they need to get with the program. I think everybody needs to get with Toro's program, because Toro releases the information that the end user needs. Jacobson, they release some stuff. John Deere releases zero, zilch, nada. And that makes it a lot harder to work on the stuff when they're not releasing that information. Some of the information's out there, but you got to purchase it. Where with Toro, you just go to their website. It doesn't matter. I got a 1988 Toro pull frame that we still use today. That's our primary rough mower. Is a 1988 Toro pull frame.
Wow.
I rebuilt it in 2012, and it looked brand new when I got done. And we're still using that thing. I mean, you can't beat it. I grind it once in the winter, and then I don't touch it again until the next winter, unless they hit something. And it does take an operator that's pretty decent that can adjust reel to bed knife as he's using it. But we got a good operator, and I mean, I don't know, it's a really, really good piece of equipment. But I like what Toro, when they come up with the DPA cutting unit, so dual precision adjustment cutting unit that they come up with when the Flex 21 first come out in the early 2000s. The behind center distance of the bed knife, where it contacts the reel, changes very little over the life of the reel. And that is not true in any other brand. So they figured this out. Jerry Goman, he retired last year, I think. Yeah, last year. Him and some other Toro engineers figured out this technology, and it's a real game changer. The reason they figured that out, and they saw a need for it, is if you have a triplex, say, and the reels are towards the end of their life. So the minimum reel diameter on a 5-inch reel is 4.5 inches. If it's close to that 4.5 and you damage one of the reels, you can't just replace one reel, or the cut's going to look different across the three. And with this, the behind center distance staying relatively the same, that was their idea, that you could change the reel, just that one reel. Do you want to do that if you're trying to provide high end tournament conditions? No, I would not recommend it. But for your mom and pop course, you know, you can get by with it. Y'all want to talk reel to bed knife and behind center distance? Because that's like my favorite subject.
We'll let you handle that on your
Okay.
podcast.
Okay.
Right now,
All right. All right.
you're speaking Portuguese to us right now.
Okay.
so
Yeah.
it's-
Well, I seen your eyes glass over a little bit, and I said, "Okay, I'm losing these guys here."
So along those lines, how much or how important is it for you to be educating your director, your superintendent on some of those intricacies of how the equipment operates and how it's going to be best utilized on the golf course?
This goes right back to having really good communication with your superintendent and the mutual respect between the two of you. But the superintendent, I mean, the way I've always looked at it is they're the grass guy, right? So they know how to grow the grass. But the technician, we're the mechanic. We understand how the equipment works. So we have to communicate together on what piece of equipment might be the best. And I mean, that's another thing that I like about my director is he'll come to me and he'll say, okay, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. What do you think we should use for that? So he does value my opinion, which is, something I like too. But being able to talk back and forth to him, and it does help that he's super knowledgeable about what I do. And I'm not going to say that I'm super knowledgeable about what he does, but being in it for this long, you kind of got an idea of what he's going to do next. Like, oh, why is he spraying that? Okay, well, that's why he's spraying that. You figure those things out over the years. But I would recommend to anyone listening, if you're a mechanic, educate your superintendent, and if you're a superintendent, educate your mechanic or technician, why you're doing what you're doing, or what you want to do next, and being able. So that's another one that makes me think of. And again, Toro, they have after cut appearance troubleshooting guide. It's a PDF. You can go to the website, get it. I recommend everybody, or maybe not everybody, but the superintendent, the assistant, and the technician all be familiar with that document. And that way you can all talk the same language. So if you see an aftercut appearance issue on the course, you can identify that. You can tell the technician, or you can tell the superintendent or whatever, about what you're seeing out there. So is it mismatched cutting unit? Is it overlap marks? Is there a bunch of stragglers, streaking? So you're all talking the same language, I think is really important. So yeah, I got a copy of it. And each time we get a new assistant, say, you got to learn this part of it.
Really good advice. Hopefully people can find that easily online and get acquainted with it. I wanted to move over to championship golf or tournament golf. You have worked 12 tour championships, the Players, the PGA Championship, and 2 years at the Travelers. So this is something that gets overlooked a little bit. We talk a lot about big crews and all the volunteers that come in to work in these big tournaments, but talk to us a little bit about what that must be like to have a number of mechanics all working on a big fleet.
The coolest thing, so that was in 2018, the 100th PGA Championship. And that was, I mean, I volunteered for the tour championship a bunch of years. I knew the mechanic down there at the time, but going to Belle Reve, that was a game changer. So me and another guy in Atlanta that works at a golf course, another mechanic, we rode up to Belle Reve together, and we met two other guys up there, technicians. So there's four of us, and we got up there Sunday of advance week, and we ground every reel on property. And I wish I had the count, but I know it was over 100 cutting units on property. I mean, they got their normal fleet, and then they were all John Deere. So John Deere brought in a bunch of loaner equipment, which, I mean, they do the same thing at the Tour Championship. And I mean, Toro does the same thing at Augusta, right? They bring in a bunch of loaner equipment for tournament support. But yeah, so grinding every reel on property, we changed every bed knife. We were taking off brand new, and this was not my call, and it wasn't even the equipment manager's call. It was somebody else's call. We were taking off brand new bed knives and putting on brand new bed knives because they said this is the 100th PGA Championship at Belle Reve, and we're going to have brand new bed knives. So, we were just in there working. But how close we got with those guys, the four of us working together, busting it 12-hour days or longer. And yeah, it was advance week. But honestly, for people that have never volunteered for advance week, that's when all the shit gets done, is advance week. I mean, hands down. I mean, I know Brian's seen it for sure firsthand. But you show up tournament week, and it ain't that there's not a lot going on. Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts tournament week, but it is not getting done like advance week. I mean, that's when all the important stuff's happening, in my opinion, anyway.
No, I agree. It's rinse and repeat. Once you get to tournament week, it's rinse and repeat, every single day.
Right.
It's Groundhog's Day.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I mean, a lot of times tournament week, you're not even grinding a reel. I mean, usually everything's dialed in by then. I mean, maybe you touch up greens mowers on Wednesday before you go into tournament week, but you're not top dressing. I mean, you got everything dialed in by then. But back to volunteer, I mean, the bond that is created between some of the volunteers is something else. So I met Austin Wright, and he's the equipment manager now at Hazeltine. He was at Sand Valley for a long time. And we do a class at GIS together. I mean, and since 2018. Do we talk every day? No, but we talk enough. And I mean, he's a great guy. And anytime I get up that way, I'll go hang out with him.
He's a good kid. I met him at the USAM last year.
Okay,
really,
yeah.
Really, really sharp. Does a really good job.
He's really squared away, and it's funny. So we put this presentation together, and I like throw all my stuff in the presentation, and he's like, "If you don't mind, Trent, I'm going to clean that up." And I'm like, "Yeah, buddy, you just knock yourself out. You do it.
Add your commas."
yeah, right. Add the commas. I might not be the most organized person, if I'm being honest with myself and everybody else listening.
I'm glad you brought up the relationship side of things, because that's one thing I did want to ask you about is, what is that community like of equipment managers, technicians?
Oh, it's second to none. I mean, I know superintendents have some tight knit groups, and that's I mean, that's great. But yeah, we have the Real Turf Techs community, and to plug the podcast for a minute.
We'll get into that here soon.
Okay. But I'm going to say it started as a podcast, but it turned into a community, and that's what's so special about it. And we have a WhatsApp group. There's almost 150 guys and one gal, Kayla Kipp. Whoop whoop. She's my turf sister. She's at Nemacolin in Pennsylvania. But anyway, just really awesome people. And you asked a question in there, and you get an answer pretty quick. And if you've had, an issue with whatever mower it is, somebody else has probably figured that out 6 months ago because they had the same problem. So really easy to get help in there. I had it added up. I hadn't been keeping track, but we were over 1,000 years of experience in the group. So, I mean, that's huge, right? To have that resource at your fingertips, and it's free. I mean, we don't charge for that. Everybody's in there, they're on free will. And as far as I'm concerned, it's always going to be that way.
Well,
I warn anybody that joins, like the first thing you do is turn off notifications because nobody needs
that's
that
a good
many
idea.
notifications. Yeah.
Well, certainly a popular guy and a couple awards to talk about. We want to talk about the MVP or the MVT, Most Valuable Technician Award, that you won back in 2018. And then you also had the Edwin Budding Award, which was a GCSAA award back in 2022. So talk to us about those.
Yeah, the 2018, the MVT. I mean, that I guess that's kind of when um I started making a name for myself. Not that that's was my goal or anything, but my superintendent nominated me, and I'm sure y'all have heard of Hector Shop. He was also nominated that year, so I was running against him, and I just put my head down. I'm like, no way, I'm gonna beat Hector. I mean, Hector is awesome. He's been helping the industry for all these years, all these things. So I don't know if it was rigged or not, but somehow I come out on top. So that was super cool. Very humbling experience. We had a nice party at the clubhouse, and invited a bunch of family and friends and all that thing. And, it was sponsored by Foley, and they fly out and give you the big check. It's cool. Hold up the big check. I still got it actually in my garage. I don't know what I'm ever going to do with it, but
Nice.
it was cool, man. I mean, how many times do you get the big check, right? So that was super cool. And that kind of, I guess, I don't know if I would say launched me to where I'm at now, but it definitely didn't hurt. So I made a lot of, connections through that and networking. And anybody that knows me has been around me very long. They know what I think about networking. That's the best thing about volunteering for a tournament is the networking. I mean, yeah, you can learn some cool stuff, you can meet some cool people, but the whole networking thing, I mean, that's what it's all about. Because, I mean, especially for technicians, and we're volunteering at a tournament, and there's a bunch of superintendents there, you might meet your new boss, right there. Yeah, I mean, you never know. And it's crazy to me too how small. And if you hadn't figured this out, I got ADHD a little bit. It's like all over the place. A little bit of squirrel. But if, um, yeah, I get sidetracked from time to time. But yeah, I mean the networking thing is just so huge. And we talk about how small and tight knit the turf industry is. But I'll go to, I mean, like I was in Minnesota, and I've been in Georgia my whole life, and I meet somebody up there, and I'm like, oh, I know that guy. He used to be down here, or whatever the case is. It's just crazy how really small it is. And well, yeah, for instance, I went to Palm Springs to speak at the Sports Turf Managers Association, or their group in Palm Springs, and I rented a car and I drove down to PGA West where your buddy Thomas Bastis was. Awesome dude. And well, yeah. So long story. I met him in Minnesota, Thomas, in December. I'm in. I drive down to PGA West in January, and I see Thomas. I'm like, hey Thomas. I stick my hand out, and he's like, dude, you're in the club. Come on, bring it in here. And he gives me a big hug. I'm like, this is awesome. This is just so
Nice.
good. So good. It
That
just
sounds
makes
like
me feel,
Thomas.
yeah, that's exactly Thomas. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, we had a good time in Minnesota, and got to talk a lot. And I got to listen to him talk a lot, if you know Thomas, which, I mean, it was awesome. It really was. But anyway, I was going down there to see Chad Kinzer, and he's the equipment manager at the Dunes Golf Club in Myrtle Beach, and then run into Thomas, whatever. It's just crazy. And like, what is Chad doing in California? Thomas invited him down there because they have a tournament at the Dunes. It might be going on right now.
Yeah, I think it's this week.
Yeah. Okay. And
Yeah.
Thomas, that's one of Thomas's tournaments. So he invited Chad down there to check that out. Winning the Edwin Budding is because or for all the stuff I've done in the industry for equipment managers. That's why I won that award, which was so cool because I was nominated by other equipment managers and chosen by equipment managers to win the Edwin Budding. So, I mean, that was like the coolest experience probably ever. So, I mean, it's just really, really cool. All that stuff is.
Imagine the frustration of having a golf event planned for months, having it disrupted by unpredictable weather. It's a constant battle against time and nature. We can feel helpless and our members understandably disappointed. We were introduced to Flash Weather AI and everything changed. With Flash, we're not just guessing anymore. We have the most accurate, real-time weather and lightning data at our fingertips. It's like having a personal weather expert always with us. Flash Weather AI is what our staff and members trust. It allows us to pull our members and our guests off the golf course in the safest, most efficient way possible. With Flash, at Columbus Country Club, we're always one step ahead of the weather.
So I want to talk about, you got your award, and you mentioned kind of putting you on the map, and you've created this community, Real Turf Techs, which is also a podcast. Talk about how that kind of all came to be.
Like I kind of led in with the winning the MVT in 2018, GCM Golf Course magazine, GCSA's publication. They had a podcast at the time, and Scott Hollister interviewed me after winning, and it was a cool experience. And I'm like, this is really cool. Like, and I'd listened to some podcasts at the time, and I'm like, why does somebody not do a podcast for equipment managers? Because there's a bunch of podcasts for superintendents. And I mean, there's a damn podcast for everything, literally everything out there. I'm sure there's some probably really weird stuff there's podcasts on.
I have a lot of time on the road. Yes, there are a lot of very strange podcasts out there.
All right. Thank you for confirming that. And that way I don't have to.
It's like associations. There's an association for everything. There's a podcast for everything. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You're in no, it's all good. You were in the association world. Yeah.
Another squirrel moment for us.
I'm pretty sure there's an association for associations.
Most
there
likely.
Is. There is. Yeah. Yes, I was a proud member and board member and foundation. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was pretty sure they had that going on. Yeah, this is crazy. So anyway, he interviewed me. I thought this is a cool idea. I pitched it to him. I said, why don't y'all do something like this for equipment managers? You're interviewing a bunch of superintendents and all that stuff, and that's cool. I said, I'll even help you do it. And then never heard anything. And nothing against Scott. I mean, he's a good guy. And I mean, he's busy, and that's not where his priorities are at, right? And I get that. I understand that. So I chewed on it for 3 years. I chewed on it. Thinking about it, and I chewed on it 2 years, and then I spent probably a year just trying to figure out, like, how do you even do a podcast? I listened to Crystal Profit on how to start a podcast, and she's the one that says we all have to start somewhere at the end of every one of her things. But a lot of really good information on there, and like, how do you launch a podcast? And the information I got, it said you needed to drop 3 episodes, like, out of the gate, and promote them, and then see how it goes or whatever, and then all the equipment you need. What are you going to edit with? What kind of microphone do you need? How do you get the audio from the microphone into your computer? I know y'all are using Zoom. I use Riverside. And then you got to have a podcast host. I mean, it's just all the things. And I mean, I'm a pretty techie guy. I'm not saying that I'm up with the kids at that level, but I mean, I can muddle around and figure some stuff out. but I really like the technical aspect, because it's kind of like mechanics. Well, I need, this part and that part. And we plug these together and that works this way, I mean, the whole mechanical mind and the way that works. That was cool figuring all that stuff out. But what I learned at the end of the day is it doesn't matter how much preparation you do, how much research you do, you just got to do it. You just got to start. And I think that is so true in life with so many things. You can make all the excuses in the world. I mean, I could make the excuse, I'm not going to play golf because I hadn't got my swing down. But you just got to get out there and hit the ball, right? I mean, that's the only way you're going to figure it out. So same thing with podcasting. Um, so yeah, I started doing it, and then I started getting all this awesome feedback. I had people telling me it changed their life, and I'm like, no way. I mean, it's just so hard to believe. But for technicians, a dynamic that gets set up a lot of times is it's the technician against everybody else, and the operators are breaking all the equipment, and they feel like they're not supported. And the one guy that told me that is he felt that way. He's like, I thought, everybody was out to get me. And then I found your podcast and I said, I'm not alone. Because I mean, we all go through that. So that was just so cool. And I would have never dreamed about that. And honestly, I don't remember exactly how the WhatsApp got going, but it was, see if I can remember his name, Jerry Knight, and he's at Mississauga. Help me out, Adam.
Yeah, you got it.
It's okay. Um, Golf course as equipment manager, and he started a group for the Canadian guys. And not that it's exclusive, that you got to be Canadian to get in the group. Um, but he started that. I'm still in that group, and I thought, well, I'm gonna start one down here for the real turf tech guys. And yeah, and I mean, there's people all over the world in that group, UK, Ireland. I mean, it's just crazy. And then, I mean, another really cool thing from that group is in the UK, Matthew Axton, he started a group over there, and they actually started an association in the UK for technicians. So, I mean, it's crazy, what all's transpired from this crazy idea of Real Turf Tech's podcast in March of 21. It's like, wow, I would have never dreamed.
Oh, fantastic, man. It's so good that you started that, and you're you're the perfect person to be able to put out something like that and handle that type of a community. When we first started talking to you, I was like, I don't really buy that this guy's a mechanic. Like he's the calm demeanor. There's no way. I know you mentioned you've gotten frustrated before. I'm sure that's something you've practiced over the time. But any mechanic I've met, very grumpy, loves to throw wrenches, loves to call people names and stuff like that. And I think it's just rite of passage with that industry and or with that job. But I think you're the perfect person because you care a lot about the equipment, you care a lot about the people, you just want to help. I really commend you for starting this and continuing on, and it's only going to help everybody in our industry and everything we're trying to do here. So, we really appreciate what you're doing on your side of things, and keeping that relationship between the greenkeepers, the superintendents, and the mechanics and all that. That's only helping the golf course culture.
Well, thank you very much, Adam. I mean, it's awesome. It's a privilege to be on here, and I mean, I can't thank y'all enough for what you're doing. I mean, we have the same goal, right? We're just spreading the word, spreading the cheer, creating fellowship between other individuals. And I've heard it from Tim Krieger a bunch, but I don't think he came up with it. It's all about the people. And I'm not a people person, believe it or not. It's took me a while to get over that hump, but it is really at the end of the day about the people that we can help, right? And I
People
mean, it's
helping
just
people.
awesome.
That's his thing all the time. People helping people.
Yeah, it is nothing
I
like
love
it
it.
for sure.
I want to go into what you see as I guess maybe the present and the future. Where's the industry as far as the people, is there still a major need for more equipment managers? What's the outlook on, or the pipeline on that side of the business?
This is going to be a real short answer. No pipeline. No, I mean, the pipeline is or has been being built for the last 10 or 15 years. I think, we're trying to build a pipeline. One of the really good things is pay has increased, across the board. I think even for superintendents, but definitely for technicians. I mean, yeah, not to get too much in the weeds, but my pay has increased 50% in 10 years, and I don't know if that's a good number or not, but it's a good number to me. I'm not complaining, right? Um, but for a long time, the pay was not where it needed to be. And honestly, I don't know if it's right where it needs to be yet, but it's, headed the right direction. And it's really hard to get a person to come to a golf course where you're required to be a mechanic, a plumber, electrician, a welder, a pipe fitter. I mean, you wear all the hats, right? And you want to pay that person 70 grand a year. And I'm just throwing a number out there. And then, but that person, if he was a welder and he would only be welding, he gets 100. Or he could be an auto mechanic and he's making 100. So there's still a little disconnect there that I think we gotta work on. And I
You're
mean, I
saying the
think
free golf doesn't make up for the extra 30 grand?
yeah.
Those-
No, right. Not quite. I mean, maybe it's close, but well, and that's the other thing with technicians. I don't know why. I know some technicians do play golf, but I don't think there's a large percentage of us that play golf. And I don't know if it's because I'm there all day and I'm just ready for a change of scenery at the end of the day. And then, I mean, the other thing, and I'm sure superintendents go through it too, like if you're playing your own course and you're just seeing every imperfection, or I mean, that's the way I look at stuff. I can't go out there and just have a good time. I'm too much in my head and worried about, yeah, well, the cut's off on that mower. We just ground that yesterday, or what, whatever it is. Like, nah, ready to get out there and do something else. But GCSA is doing a lot of really good stuff. They're working with FFA, the Future Farmers of America, and trying to recruit kids there. The First Green program, I think, that's really good, bringing awareness to people, because I've only interviewed one person that knew he wanted to be a golf course mechanic when he was in high school. And that's the guy at Marion, Robert. Um, he knew about it, but everybody else never even heard about it, right? I mean, nobody knows this is a job. I mean, a lot of people don't even know that a superintendent's a job. Oh, you mean you get paid to grow grass and take care of a golf course? Another side story with my ADD. Every time a superintendent is having a challenge with an employee, I always have to say, when you were in school, you thought you were just growing grass. I mean, it is never, that's like the easiest thing a superintendent does, right? Is grow grass, cultural practice. It's all the other garbage that you have to deal with that really pulls them down.
Absolutely. Goes a lot of different places. So what do you think what's the best place to go and find these new people? I know you talked about some of the initiatives with the GCSAA, but is there technical schools that we should be trying to go and promote this industry to, or what do you see as some of the proven avenues into it?
Yeah, I definitely think if you have a technical school with some kind of a welding program or automotive program and they will let you talk to students, I think that would be a really good idea. I've honestly had better success on finding an assistant technician just finding somebody on the crew. You take somebody that's got the right mindset and the ability, and you can train them everything they need to know. The assistant I got now started on the crew. He's been with me going on 2 years. Awesome kid. He's 22, I think. And he's just killing it, figuring it out. And it's so good. And then the other thing for any of the assistant superintendents out there, if you like to tinker with stuff, go hang out in the shop for a while, because I've met a bunch of people that's went that route. Just like Seth Sheldon, right?
Yep.
That was him. He was assistant superintendent and ends up in the shop. So if that's your thing, it's less stress, less headache. It's not all on your shoulders. There's a lot on your shoulders, but not quite as much as a superintendent.
I think one of my favorite things, especially at tournament time, to watch is what the equipment manager is doing first thing in the morning. Talk about what you're, again, kind of with some of your tournament experience, but even just your general day to day. First thing out of the gates, what are you going to look at? It seems like you're checking the quality you cut. It's like you're smelling for different things, you're listening for different things. Talk about that right out of the gates, what you're up to out on the golf course.
Yeah, I think it just starts with riding around and seeing what you can see, hearing what you can hear. And yeah, and obviously we're checking greens mowers, and everybody knows that's the most important mower on the golf course, right? Because the green's the most important thing. So we're going to start there first and see if we see anything out of the ordinary. Is one side cutting lower, one side cutting higher? What kind of issues we might be having with that. But we're also listening too. Is this making a funny noise? Is it not making it sound normal? All those things. So yeah, I usually run around, and we usually send out 6 greens mowers. We got, for 18 holes, and we have a short course. So run out there, check all those. While I'm out there riding around, I'm looking at the fairway mowers too, making sure, everything looks right with them, making sure the rear roller brushes are working. That's always a constant battle, it seems like, to keep those going. But they're an important accessory, because if you have cut grass build up on that roller, that your height of cut just went from a half inch to 3/4 of an inch on that cutting unit, because it's got the extra clippings on it. So it's just little simple things like that that can cause a poor quality of cut or after cut appearance that we have to be looking for.
Nice. Well, Trent, we honestly can't thank you enough for doing this. You're our first equipment manager to come on the show. A lot of great tidbits and advice for people. We have a few minutes left here. Is there anything else that we kind of missed or you want us to talk about?
That's a really good question. I don't know if I'm sure I missed a lot of stuff the way I squirrel around back and forth.
This hour is just flown by.
Yeah. It might have to be part 1 to 3.
Oh, man.
Oh, no,
I looked up at the clock. I'm like, holy moly, is it already that time?
Yep. No, that's good. It makes it fun when it goes by that quick. And from personal experience, hopefully I made for a decent guest. I know it makes y'all's job a lot harder when the guest is not forthcoming with information. Not that you've had that problem, but I know I have with technicians, especially. Most of us are introverts, and we don't really like to get out of our shell.
It's very similar on the superintendent side too, right? I think a lot of people get into this side of the business, so they don't, they're not in the pro shop glide handing all day. So it's
right. Yeah.
It can sometimes be a little challenging, but no, this has been awesome. You came out of the gates with some great stories and everything. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on here, Trent.
Well, I can't thank y'all enough again for having me on, and I appreciate you shining a little light on the technician world. But I really appreciate you shining a huge light for superintendents and greenskeeper. Now, let me ask Adam a question. So, in Canada, are you a superintendent or are you a greenkeeper?
We're both. Like
You're
we have
both.
we
Okay.
have a superintendent. I'm an assistant superintendent, and we have greenkeepers that work for us.
So, what is a greenskeeper? What is their job?
We would just be a laborer. You might be an
Okay.
operator, you might be a hand water, you might be, yeah, like
Okay.
you're just not, yeah, you're just a worker basically. We just call them greenkeepers, which is very similar
Okay.
overseas. And in the States it's greenskeeper. I know when we started Turf Today there was a big argument about, is it greenkeeper, is it greenskeeper? The reason I say greenkeeper is because it was a lot more popular worldwide. Like if you were using hashtags or you were Googling it, the word greenkeeper just was used a lot more. And so it just seemed like it was a lot more general, but the word greenskeeper seems to be a lot more American. Neither of them are wrong. They both mean the same thing. It's just people use it, it's like the word favorite or the word color. We add a U in it here in Canada for whatever stupid
Hmm.
reason, but it's just the way it is. So I don't know. We say greenskeeper sometimes, we say greenkeeper sometimes, we say, hey, you go do this sometimes. So
Well, right. No, I definitely know. Yeah. Hey, you. Yeah, we
yeah.
get that. Yeah, plenty.
We made
Um,
everything the same. There wouldn't be any thought behind it. It'd just be too easy. So you
Yeah,
got to
no,
throw
that's
some
true.
wrenches in.
Yeah. Like some
Yeah,
people
yeah.
don't know gravity, right? So you gotta mix it up a
right.
little bit for
Exactly.
them.
Yep. Exactly. That's a fair point. And I do believe, I know my director of agronomy, he's always been like a big stickler on just saying green. He does not put an S on it. And it's something to do like the home of golf and where it
Mm.
started over there. That's what it was called, was greenkeeper. And so, I mean, he's a traditionalist, I guess. But what I don't understand, I guess, is in the UK, a superintendent is a greenkeeper, correct?
They go by course manager over there.
Course manager. Okay.
Hmm.
And deputy course manager, right? For
Right.
an assistant.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. And the greenkeeper is just the crew person.
Right, but they might only have
Okay.
6 or 7 people on their crew. So if you're a greenkeeper on a course like that, you might be doing a lot of different things.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. You might be the spray tech, but you're a greenkeeper.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. But I'm glad we got that figured out. And then the other thing, if y'all are not aware of, in the UK, they call a reel a cylinder, and they
Oh,
call a bed knife a bottom blade. So cylinders
interesting.
and bottom blades.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Learn something
Yeah,
new every day.
that's it, man.
I've
That's
heard cylinder. I have not heard the bottom blade though.
Yep, bottom blade for bed
All
knife.
right.
Yeah, I'm not sure why or how where that
Yeah.
come about, but yeah, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
So it's
Again, just
funny.
keeping everybody on their toes.
We didn't talk about CTEM, Certified
Yeah.
Turf Equipment Manager, which I think is awesome that GCSA is putting that on. And where I was going with that is, for far as UK and the imperial system, the metric system, when we were writing all those exams, so there's the 8 exams for level 1 and then another exam for level 2, and then you get your shop attested to become a certified turf equipment manager. When we were doing all that, we had to, because GCSAA, even though it's the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America, it's still an international association. So we had to keep all that in mind when we were writing these test questions to make sure, everything, like the cylinder and bottom blade and all those things. So it was a really cool learning experience being involved in that.
So being involved in writing the actual program for CTEM, did you have to take the test? Or did
Yes.
they just,
Yep.
oh man.
No,
I mean,
and
you
I
wrote
know
you wrote the test. Like,
Yeah.
doesn't it
it
just come
was
along with writing the
Trent, how do
test?
you fail a test
Here.
you wrote? Like,
I'll tell you, the sad thing is when I was taking the test, I said, I know I wrote this question. I do not remember the answer.
oh no.
What is wrong with me? Yeah, I mean it's terrible. I'm like, and it was like a 50-50. I'm like, well, I think it's this, but I don't know for sure. And I know I wrote this question. I remember writing this question and couldn't remember. But yeah, I guess unfortunately for me, I did have to take the test. And then like with the CTEM, so I was the third to get certified. But it was weird because I certified number one. And then we had to get two. I was not in on number two. I was out that day or whatever. Somebody else certified number two, and then one and two certified me. So now everybody,
someone's got to certify number one. So if you're on strength, you should be a part of that process. Yeah.
Well, and obviously it wasn't just me. There was like 12 or 13 of us that sat in on that. It was the equipment manager task group, which if you're interested in volunteering for the equipment manager task group, you can sign up on GCSA's website. Super good experience. Again, networking, meeting people, I met so many people through that and get to know people. It's really awesome.
Who was number one?
Justin Prescott. And he's in Wisconsin, just north of Chicago. Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
The Kenosha Country Club.
Nice.
He was number one. Tony Bevelo at Trinity Forest was number two.
Nice.
Yep. Nice. Awesome dudes. It's cool.
This is a good group of guys. No question.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, the golf course doesn't run without the mechanic. We've always said that. So you guys are doing a lot for what we're doing.
Well, and I really like when you're signing off about keep those reels sharp.
Nice. Yeah. I was going to ask you about that if you ever catch on that. Yeah. Yeah. I remember what our first episodes, we were like, shit, we need a sign off line. And I was like, keep your reels sharp. I don't know.
Yeah.
It worked, man. It stuck. Yeah. And now here we are.
Yeah. That's so good.
Yeah. Well, Thanks a lot for this, Trent. This has been so much fun, man. And I'm sure we'll have to get you back on here at some point to dig into some more of these stories. It's been really good.
Thank you so much, Adam and Brian. This really, really good. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah. Always great to see you, Trent. Look forward to crossing paths again here soon.
Oh, yeah. You going to be at the Open?
Yeah. Yeah. You coming up?
Yep. I'm coming up.
Oh, outstanding.
It's official. I'll be there Saturday. So I can't wait. And I've never done an Open. So I'm so excited about it.
Are you there Saturday through Sunday then? Or what's your schedule?
Yep. I'll be there the whole time.
I've got kids lacrosse the weekend of advanced week, but I'll be on site hopefully for the volunteer meeting Sunday night. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see how late the tournament goes. But yeah, I can't wait. Look forward to it, man. All right, buddy. Well, we'll catch up soon.
Sounds good. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care, Trent. Thank you so much.
Trent. We'll see you, man.
See you.
That was so much fun.
Oh, it was. That just flew by.
Yeah. I actually thought he was going to be a lot more rough around the edges. Like he's probably worked on that a lot over the years because it's not an easy position to be in.
No, I'll tell you what, he's done a really good job. I think that's, obviously you start a podcast and may not know what you're doing. And like he said, bit of an introvert, quiet guy. But just to see how he's developed and how much more comfortable he's become with a microphone in front of him. I remember a couple of years ago, we did a little piece at Oakland Hills. He was up visiting Seth at Oakland Hills, and we just did a little walk around interview and stuff like that. We were just kind of testing some things out, and you could tell he was a little nervous and stuff like that. But a couple of years later, he's killing it. His podcast it's huge. He's got a great following. Huge EM audience there, obviously, and he's doing a great job with it all.
Yeah, definitely seems like such a great guy. I know and every mechanic I've ever worked for, there's there are different moods and different days and stuff, and you got to approach them differently and see how they're doing stuff. But no, he's such a great guy, and if you're going to be learning from a guy like that, or trying to get connected and working with a guy like that, then you're in a great spot.
Yep, absolutely. He's done a great job of promoting the industry, especially that side of the business. So All right, dude. Well, we'll talk soon.
All right, keep in touch. Have a good
All
weekend.
right, man. Yeah, you too.
Before we let you go today, we want to say thank you to all of our sponsors and a huge shout out to the Andersons. We've been doing the Ask the Agronomist segment for a while now. We have a lot of fantastic ones in the hopper, but if you do have something you want to get to us, we are always looking for more. So whether it be something to do with the time of year or something specific you're dealing with on your golf course, reach out to us. You can ask the question anonymously. Doesn't matter. We are here to help. So reach out to us here at Turf Today or somebody at the Andersons. They will get the questions to us and we'll be able to get it on with Ben. So thank you so much to those guys for everything they do for us. All of our sponsors here at Turf Today, they keep us motivated and they keep inspiring us every single day with all the amazing things they're doing. So shout out to all those folks. Keep those reels sharp. We'll see you next week for another beauty of an episode.